In this video, we're going to show you how to install the fuel pump on your Ford F-150 located inside the fuel tank. With the vehicle raised and supported, we're going to go ahead and access the fuel pump driver module on this cross beam in the back of the vehicle. We have our fuel tank over here and the muffler just across from it, so that way there you can get your location. Now we need to disconnect this connector here from the module. Sometimes you can reach up on the top and press down on the tab and wiggle that connector free. If you cannot, simply use your gear wrench, or you can use a 1/4-inch ratchet. And there is a bolt on either side holding the module in place. There's one right here and one just on the other side of it. If we simply remove those bolts, we can go ahead and pull that module down and disconnect it. Now we're using a 10mm gear wrench here to go ahead and remove these bolts. Now normally you can press down on this tab right here and remove the connector. Ours is being a little stuck right now. It could be debris that's caught inside. So I'm going to use a pocket screwdriver going just above it. I'm going to press down on that clip and disconnect the connector. There it is. Now at this point here, we can just go ahead and reinstall the sensor up top. Let's go ahead and do that. Now we're going to install the driver unit. On the bottom, there's a pin right here, a plastic alignment pin. So as you feed this up into place, you should be able to locate that spot where it drops right in. See if we get one of our bolts lined up. I'm going to go ahead and thread that in as far as I can. We'll go ahead and get that other one installed, do the same there. And then once we have both of these installed, we're going to come back and snug them down. Just snug it down. Doesn't have to be super tight, so once it bottoms out, just give it a little bit more, and then we're going to repeat for the other side. Now with the fuel pump driver module disconnected, we're going to come into the vehicle and we're going to go ahead and start it. Now the truck is going to run for a couple seconds here until it starts to consume that fuel inside the fuel lines in the injection system. It's going to stall out. You want to do this a couple times until the vehicle just doesn't start anymore. And this is what we call depressurizing the fuel system. By cycling the key back and forward, the fuel pump is going to want to continue to push that fuel, but the driver module isn't going to allow it. All right, at this point here, we're going to go ahead and continue on. Now at this point here, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the ground terminal on our battery. We're going to use a 10mm socket to loosen the cable on the ground terminal. Okay, give that a little wiggle, twist it up, and set it aside. Now on the driver's side rear of the vehicle, we're going to come in through the wheel well, and we're going to locate our filler tube right here, and it connects to the rubber portion of the fill tube. Now we need to go ahead and separate the rubber portion from the hard tube here from the side of the bed. It's going to be a 7mm hose clamp right here. We need to go ahead and loosen. Now I'm going to use my 7mm socket and my 1/4-inch ratchet, and ideally what you want to do is get in there, but you can't on our particular vehicle. If your hose is positioned better, go ahead and loosen that hose clamp. In our case, we're going to simply use a pry bar. We're going to go in here and we're going to gently apply some upward pressure to raise that up. Now it is a rubber flex hose there, so we do have a little bit of mobility. We're going to position it just so we can go ahead and get our ratchet in there. Make sure that hose clamp is loose. We're going to use our pry bar to go ahead and start to work this hose off, just working it gently on both sides. To this I use our hose clamp. You can use our pry bar to wiggle this off. Now if you're struggling with this here, it's not that big of an issue. As we start to lower down our fuel tank later on, it's going to give us a little more ease to try and work this down because the tank will be lowered and there won't be as much pressure on that rubber tube here. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to remove this completely once we start to lower that tank. Now underneath the vehicle, on the front side of our tank right here, we have two lines we need to disconnect. Because of the road debris that's in there, I like to go ahead and start with some spray solvent. Go ahead and clean that out. Try and get as much garbage out of there as possible. Give it a wipe down. Now, anytime you're underneath the vehicle, especially when working with gas, make sure you're wearing safety glasses, and it's always a good wise choice to wear gloves when you're doing this. Now there might be a little bit of fuel left in here. We did depressurize the system, but you always want to take caution to that. So I have some rags around. I want to go ahead and disconnect this one here. This has some lock tabs on the back side. I want to go ahead and get this lock tab to come out. Now what I'm doing is I'm pushing on these lock tabs. I'm going to push this back up. You're going to feel that the lock tab will push backward towards the rear of the vehicle. Same on the other side. You're going to push them both that way and down, and you should be able to get that lock tab to come down. Once again, if it's stuck with debris, you want to go ahead and address that by keep spraying it and cleaning that out. I'm going to use my pocket screwdriver to come in here and make sure that that lock tab is out all the way. You're going to hear it kind of clip all the way or pop. I'm going to use a shop rag, and I'm going to pull in opposite directions with these. And also, you can see a little bit of fuel dribbling out there, but it's not a lot. There shouldn't be that much in here. Now there's a tab here and there's a tab on the top side. I found that a pair of thin pliers will actually work to compress both of these to pinch and then pull it out. Now there's a rubber O-ring on the inside here. I did spray it out a little bit more with some solvent to clean it. I'm going to take a piece of fuel line here, work that over the end. I'm going to clamp that off. I'm going to go ahead and put a rubber glove over the end of this here. Use a tie strap and secure that. Now our tank is held up in place by two straps, and these straps are held in place by a 15mm bolt on each one. Now we do have our gas tank jack underneath. It is supported. It is not pushing the tank up. We just have it there gently holding it while we remove our straps. 15mm socket on our air gun. We try not to use electric, anything that's going to cause sparks or anything like that around our fuel system. Once again, safety glasses, you can see debris falling. Let's go ahead and do the same for the back. With the bolts out, we're going to try and work those straps. And as we pull this down, it's going to be on a hinge on the other side. Basically just going to work it up and out. It just has a little T that comes out of a notch on the frame itself. The rear is the same. Go ahead and remove that. Now at this point here, we're going to go ahead and slowly start to lower our tank. We're not going to drop it all the way down because we have to access some components on the top of the tank. We're going to lower it down just enough where we have access to those items. We lower it down a little bit. It's safe to go ahead and disconnect the fuel fill neck tube where we had loosened that clamp earlier. Let's continue to try and work this tube off. Now sometimes if the hose is stuck a little bit, I find spraying this down with a little bit of solvent, kind of soaking it a little bit and working that. Sometimes have a better chance at sliding off. Take your time with it. You don't want to damage that rubber tube. There it is. Now in the driver's upper portion of our tank, we have this connector right here. I want to go ahead and separate this. I'm going to press in on this little tab and disconnect that connector. Sometimes you can use a pocket screwdriver to assist you. Sometimes you can spray it down with some solvent. That might clean out some of that garbage that's in there in that connector. There it is. Now that we have the gray connector disconnected, we're now going to go ahead and lower the tank a little bit further to access the other components on the top. Now right here is the top of our fuel pump assembly, and this line right here is the vent line that comes from the fuel filler neck, and it comes down and it connects. Now there's a green tab right here. I want to go ahead and disconnect this vent line from the top of the fuel pump unit. I want to go ahead and twist this and pop this out. Now we're able to use our pocket screwdriver and we pry it out on our little green clip here. And once you get it so far, it should allow you to go ahead and pull off that vent line and separate that. Now you're going to follow this tube up here and it comes to the sensor. We need to go ahead and disconnect this connector right here. We did spray down some solvent to try and flush out some of the dirt. We're going to press down on this tab on the back side and disconnect this. Let's go ahead and disconnect our electrical connector here. There's a red lock tab on it. So what you want to do is push this red lock tab over. Sometimes you can use your finger to do that. If not, use your pocket screwdriver. And we want to pull that out. Doesn't have to come all the way out, but it may pop out. Not a big issue. Just slide that in just a little bit. Now right here is a push tab. I'm going to push down on that and disconnect the connector. There it is. Now at this point here, we can slowly lower the tank down. Now that we have our tank out, we need to go ahead and remove our pump assembly here. Now if the top of your tank looks like this here, you definitely need to clean it before you go any further. In our case, we're going to use some compressed air. You can use a vacuum and a bristle brush to go ahead and clean this, but we need to get rid of all this debris. Once you're satisfied with the cleaning, we can now continue. Next thing we want to do is disconnect these two connectors. Now this one here has a pinch tab and it's on the other side as well. So I'm going to pinch those together. I'm going to use my pliers. Pop that off. Now this one here has little tabs here. You're going to lift up on both of them. There's one on each side. Now that we have our red clip released, on this side here, there's an additional clip on this, so you can push in on that and pop that off. Now if you want to, because these might be in the way a little bit, you can possibly release these from the plastic retainers. In most cases, you can just pull these apart, spin that over. But our next step is to go ahead and loosen our lock ring by rotating it counterclockwise. Now we're going to use a brass punch and our hammer. You don't want to use a screwdriver because if you create a spark, well, you have fuel vapors here that could potentially be an issue. We're going to go ahead and use our brass punch and we're going to find our locating ears or notches around the perimeter. And we're going to go ahead and rotate this counterclockwise. Let's go ahead and twist up our lock ring. Remove that, set it aside. Now you want to remember the orientation of this here. It's going to be pretty hard not to remember because these are only going to fit on a certain way. And we're going to bring this up. Now in this particular unit, there is a hose that comes over and connects to the center of it. And this has a couple pinch tabs on it. Now we're using a pair of hose pliers here because that way we can reach around and pinch those tabs together. As we bring this up and out, we're going to have our float. You're going to find a little rheostat on the side of the unit here. It has the two purple wires coming down. You got to be careful pulling this up and out. And remember that there is fuel inside of the unit itself. So have your drain bucket or your catch can ready to go. You are going to spill some fuel, just the nature of it. Tip it up and out and into the can. Now before we install our new O-ring, you want to make sure that this is clean and make sure when you're wiping, you wipe away from the tank. Clean it up the best you can. Now once you're satisfied with the cleanliness of where the O-ring is going to seat, we can now start our installation. Before you install your fuel pump unit here, you want to go ahead and install the float. Now there's going to be a small 90-degree bar right here. You want to insert it into the rheostat center. And then simply line this up and you want to snap that on. You want to be sure to hold this when you press this on. And it just clips into place. Give it a little wiggle, make sure that it's locked into place. And ready to install. Install your O-ring on the pump assembly. Let's go ahead and lower this into place. I'm going to install the float first. Bring that around. Now you do want to make sure that when you drop this down in a position that you have access to that line that we disconnected earlier. So I'm going to drop that down inside. Go ahead and grab that line. Position this accordingly. And then feed this up to the middle. Press it up and on. Make sure you hear it click and then give it a little wiggle. Try and pull it off. Make sure that's locked on. If it isn't, you could reassemble everything and then that'll pop off and you lose your fuel pressure. Line that up and push this down into position. Now this is pretty easy to line up. There is a large tab on the back side over here and it lines up right where it says locator on the tank. If this is clocked off or something, your lines aren't going to be able to install. You can have an issue. Get your lock ring into position. Press this down. Rotate it just a little bit so that it catches. Now we're going to use our brass punch to lock it in. Going to do the same things before, just the opposite. And then come on over, line this up, and tap this lock over. Now at this point here, our lock ring is fully seated. The tab is right up against the end of the notch. We're secured. Let's install these two lines right here. Line that up, push it on. You're gonna hear it and feel it lock into place. This one here, pushing it on, the main lock will engage. You can hear it, and then don't forget to press on the lock for the red one here, or press on the red lock. Make sure those tabs are fully engaged. Let's go ahead and raise our tank back up in a position. As you're doing this, you want to pay attention to the fuel filler neck. You want to make sure that it goes up and where it needs to go. You want to make sure that our fuel filler neck doesn't bind up and get it positioned properly. Now at this point here, we can reach up and start to connect our connectors. Install your electrical connector here. And make sure that that clicks in. Let's go ahead and connect our electrical connector here. Push that on and press in a red lock tab. Go ahead and bring our vent tube over. I'm gonna have to raise up the tank just a little bit. Line that up and push it on. You're gonna hear it and feel it lock into position. Snap that on. Let's go ahead and raise up our tank a bit more. Now we're gonna continue to raise this up. Go ahead and get that electrical connector lined up. All right, you're gonna feel it and hear it lock into position. Now as you raise that tank up in a position, you wanna go ahead and make sure we can get our fuel filler neck lined up as well. Also wanna reach down here and get that hose clamp brought up and around. And raise up our gas tank a little bit further. I'm going to spray it with some solvent. Try and work that up in a position. We're going to install our gas tank straps. Install the T side in. Swing this around. Push that up in a position. I'm going to go ahead and install our forward bolt here. All right, once we get that started, we're going to go ahead and repeat for the back. All right, now that we have both of our bolts installed, we're going to go ahead and grab our impact gun and run those down. All right, once Once that's snug, we now want to go ahead and repeat for the back. Now at this point we can drop our jack. Now we need to finalize installing our fuel filler neck. It is extremely tight up in this position here, and there's no room to go up beside the tank to get to it. So I have one arm going in front of this bed rail here, running around, and I can grab the base of the filler neck to maneuver it around a little bit. With this hand here, my right hand, I'm gonna reach up and wiggle this in a position. But before we do that, we're gonna spray it down with some spray solvent. This has a tendency to let that rubber slide a little bit better on here. And just continue to do this until you can get that to slide all the way up. Now we got our filler tube on. We just need to position our hose clamp here and try and get a ratchet on there. You do want to make sure that's good and tight. All right. Now on the front side of the tank, I'm going to remove my little glove here that I tied on there. Going to line this up and push it on. You're going to hear it and feel it click into position. Now this line here is probably going to have some fuel in it, so you want to be careful when doing this. Safety glasses. Line that up. Push it in. Now this will not lock if it's not all the way in. Perfect. Let's go ahead and reconnect our connector up top here. Line that up, push it on. You're going to hear it and feel it click into place. Go ahead and slide that on. And go ahead and snug this down. Go ahead and give that a wiggle. We're nice and solid. Once we have everything installed and the battery connected, we're going to go ahead and start it up. It might take a second for that fuel to pump up into the engine. Everything's running perfect and smoothly. Go ahead for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.